CIGTV News Brief and Weather Forecast, I'm Donna Bush. Glad you could join us. Since last week, government leaders and health officials have been making major announcements of national importance regarding plans to fight COVID-19 or the coronavirus here in the Cayman Islands. Various measures have been taken, such as the halting of cruise ship and air arrivals for a period of time, and each day leading government officials have been holding a press briefing to keep the public informed with factual information.
I spent a couple of hours this morning on a conference call with Barnes Sugg, who's the new Overseas Territories Minister, along with other Overseas Territories leaders, learning what developments are like in the other territories and being able to exchange views and perspectives and to learn what the United Kingdom government is continuing to do to support its territories. I was very reassured I think we all were, by Barnes Sugg, to learn that they are sourcing additional essential equipment and supplies for us, particularly tests, that the UK has gone into heightened mode to try to produce more equipment, necessary equipment like ventilators, and that she gave us all the assurance that whatever it is that the United Kingdom government can do to continue to assist us in the territories, they will do. We talked about the importance of maintaining an air bridge between the United Kingdom and the territories. I think everyone has settled on the view that Cayman should be the center of that, and that we would be able, if necessary, to utilize Cayman Airways, either the jets or the Saab, to distribute personnel, equipment, medicines, whatever is necessary to the other territories. I think another fine example and testament to the infrastructure that we have developed here and the abilities that we have to be of service to our brothers and sisters in the other overseas territories, and I dare say even further afield within the region.
Just want to highlight some of the efforts being made by my team in the Ministry of Commerce to assist the small and medium-sized businesses in particular as we enter into this uncertain stage. We understand that there is business, but certainly not business as usual. And in response to that, and in response to what we would consider the economic fallout for our small and micro businesses, the government, through the Ministry of Commerce, is getting ready to assist small businesses across the island to weather the disruption caused by the virus so that we can recover as quickly as possible. We've already started to use a multi-channel approach to providing information to small businesses so they can prepare and respond to this virus. The government's website, www.gov.ky/coronavirus, has a wealth of information and resources specifically for businesses and commerce. And I want to encourage business persons to access and use these resources that are available to them. My ministry staff will also be sending information on the government initiatives to the Small Business Association so that it can be filtered down to their memberships. We are in discussions with the leadership of the Chamber of Commerce, the Cayman Islands Small Business Association, and other groups to agree on tangible solutions to assist our small and micro-sized enterprises and to retool and repurpose in this new environment.
And you can watch the entire press briefing from today here on CIG Television and on your YouTube channel immediately following today's news brief. And as we just mentioned, for weeks, government officials along with private sector partners have been preparing for the coronavirus. The unit responsible, Hazard Management Cayman Islands, activated the National Emergency Operations Center last week, but was preparing before that for the pandemic.
HMCI have been supporting health sector on COVID-19 for some time now, obviously before we opened the NEAC, and that was about 2.5 weeks ago we opened it up. And of course that we realised very soon on in this that this was not just a health emergency. Whilst it's a health emergency, it has multi-agencies that have to be involved, hence why the National Emergency Operations Centre was activated. Now, just to give you some understanding what that looks like, there's 4 clusters in that under the NEAC, and that's human concerns, emergency response, infrastructure and support services. Now, there's 17 teams underneath those cluster groups, so there's an enormous amount of people involved in this response. Again, they range from utilities, again, making sure that we have our utilities up and running and there's a continuity of operations to ensure if someone at the utilities company gets sick, we know that we can continue with our electricity, with our water, with our gas, home gas and so forth. So it's really, really important, utilities. Other things such as joint communication services. And I appreciate that it is really important in this phase to be speaking with one voice and to be getting clear, consistent messaging going out at all times to reassure the public that obviously the work behind the scenes going on at the government admin building, as well with our private-public partners. And we also have economic continuity. Now, obviously, there's an enormous economic impact of this disaster. And whilst we're first responders, we need to save lives as a priority, we also need to consider what that looks like in a couple of months' time to a year's time. And hence why we have the Chamber of Commerce very much involved as part of that team. It's a public-private partnership. Other things we're looking at, again, shelter operations. We're not activating shelters right now, but again, obviously we're looking at different locations for facilities that we might be able to use as a backup plan, but shelters not right now would be used, but again, it is a possibility in the future if needs be. Other emergency support teams that we're working with, we've got resource support. It's so critical right now that we have resources. So that's not just human resources, which we're working on with very closely with the Red Cross, but also volunteers, but also, you know, what if we need to have surge capacity of food supplies? How do we work with the supermarkets to make sure that, you know, that the items that we need on island, especially now that our borders will be, you know, slightly different than they were this week, in particular air traffic and cruise ships. But of course, we need to make sure that you know, the ships can continue to come in to deliver services such as food supplies. And we're all working together to make sure that's a very cohesive response. It's a massive collaboration. Hazard management, obviously, at the coordinators of the NEAC. But again, right now we're working with a lot of partners to make sure it's a really good, effective response. And a lot of this information being fed through policy. So we have a very strict timetable every day. We meet at 9 o'clock to do the NEAC briefing of all the teams that they provide feedback in. Discussion again with Dr. John Lee, Ms. Lizette, to give us a medical update, exactly where we are, so we know what we're dealing with on that day. And then again, every day at 12 o'clock, we have the situation reports from each cluster group coming into HMCI, and we collate those. And again, at 3 o'clock every day, we have the policy meeting. So any decision in the morning that needs to be addressed by policy is addressed by policy that afternoon. So there's a very, very clear sort of battle rhythm to what's going on behind the scenes. And again, we just want to make sure the public are aware of, you know, that's all happening to reassure them that we're on top of this. The fact that we activated the NEAC so early this time, a lot of other countries weren't and are now reacting. We were very proactive with activating that NEAC early. So we knew this is going to be a threat potentially worldwide. It's now obviously a pandemic, as according to WHO, WHO, World Health Organization, but at the same time, we've known this is going to be coming at some stage. There's so much, in the world that we live in, there's so much air traffic, there's so much cruise traffic. So it was just a matter of time. But again, because we activated 2.5 weeks ago now, and again, we've been working behind the scenes before that, a lot of things have been put into place to make sure we are on top of this. Again, the dynamics shift every day. It's one of those viruses that we're not entirely sure what it looks like, and it keeps bringing up surprises. But we want to make sure we've got things in place so that, you know, people arriving in are being looked at to make sure that we are, again, putting in the necessary precautions. A lot of the measures taken so far in regards to school closures, in regards to obviously the announcements made by the Premier yesterday in regards to this weekend, closures of bars, spas and so forth, are just really important because, again, it's talking about trying to isolate ourselves, not being in big groups. It's critical at this stage as a member of the public. If you can stay at home, it's ideal to do so. I mean, obviously not all of us can. We've got first responders out there. We've got a lot of the health sector have to be at the hospitals to make sure that we can continue with our operations, and the NEAC members also. We have a lot of people calling in by the Cyberlink, which is amazing. Again, it's incredible technology that we're now using because of this, the nature of this threat. But again, there are services that can't continue after next week, that could be stood down at home and working from home. So we really encourage people to take that isolation seriously. Don't be in big groups. If you can avoid contact, really, find alternative methods like phone calls or whatever it might be, emailing. It's just really important that we all take this very seriously and that we're actually all doing our bit to make sure we can, if we had a surge of cases by any chance, we're not overloading our ICU, our health sector. It's about making sure we flatten that curve as much as possible, and the isolation of people is going to really help flatten that curve. But we need to do as much as we can as Caymanian citizens to make sure we're playing our part, to wash our hands really carefully, to self-isolate if we can. And again, keeping everything clean and not panic buying. Again, we're not concerned right now about any of that breaking of the capacity. We've got surge capacity coming in for those food supplies, for those cleaning supplies. We do appreciate there's a global shortage of certain items. But again, there's alternatives like soap to sanitizer. Soap is a great alternative. We have plenty of soap in the Cayman Islands. But we want to make sure everyone's doing their part to prepare for this and do what they can to stop the spread. So in 14 days' time, you haven't got a massive outbreak at ICU. And that really comes down to our own personal responsibility and taking those precautions. The facts are so critical at this point, and getting them from official sources is the only way any member of the public should be using right now. The official sources that we have, the government sources, the HSA source, hazard management, they have all the information on there. We're trying to be very proactive with our messaging, with our advice and so forth. But I'm asking the public, please do not share unverified messaging. Do not share WhatsApp messaging that create panic, because it really is taking the attention away from the NEAC having to deal with these reactive false messaging. So I'm asking the public to please take responsibility. Do not share anything that's not a verified official source.
And join us tomorrow when we hear more about what tools emergency teams need to do their jobs during these times of crisis. Turning now to the forecast from the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. Today's high temperature reached 86 degrees, the low 74. Partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, late night showers that is, are expected. Winds are from the east to northeast at 10 to 15 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet, so small craft operators should exercise caution over open water. For more on local weather, you can go online to weather.gov.ky for the latest forecast. You can also download their app, CINWS. And that ends today's news brief here on CIG Television. If you missed it, we invite you to go to the Cayman Islands Government Facebook page or the CIG Television YouTube channel. I'm Donna Bush. Have a great night.